for the discontinuation of all contracts with the KPMG. Would know the credibility of KPMG. We are the ones who made sure that the monies which were returned to National Treasury, around 1.2 billion, that money is not taken back by National Treasury, but that money is kept within the municipality, Cathy, to make sure that we improve on service delivery. Again, we are failed by the very same accounting officer of that municipality, which is your municipal manager. And I mean, remember, it's led by the same ANC, the mayor. We will try our level best to bring sense in the municipalities where we are able to contribute. I must indicate that that's where it's very much important for the public and the EFF voters to know that if they give us enough numbers for us to control the municipalities fully, then we will be able to do more, because currently there would be projects which we are proposing which are not approved by the municipalities. Ekurhuleni, Cathy, I mean, the EFF with a number of MMCs which are there. Yes, it's a government of unity, or it's various parties. But then where we are able to control the mandate of the various of that municipality, remember, we've managed to make sure that the EFF has connected or has amended the indigent policy of the city to increase the threshold for the beneficiaries from 250 to 500,000. The EFF has made sure that under the leadership of MMC Dunga, they achieved an unqualified audit. The EFF has also made sure that at Ekurhuleni, there's two main new reservoirs which were able to supply water, Manase Pinoni. I mean, it's a lot of them. There's a rollout of libraries in Ekurhuleni. It's the EFF which made sure that all those who are owing the city, especially for electricity, they've introduced the Siyacima Manje Namhlanje campaign. The EFF has reopened the Rietfontein and Jack landfill sites after they were closed for a period of a year without operating. So there is a number of achievements, Cathy, which the EFF government, given the responsibility which we have done to change the lives of Ekurhuleni community.
I'm curious to know how you ascribe the credit for some of the things that you've mentioned and projects that you've mentioned as being as a result of the EFF.
Thank you for that, Cathy. I've mentioned the MMCs who are responsible for those areas. I mean, we have the MMC who's responsible for issues of finance. We have the MMC who's responsible for sanitation and water services. I mean,
all right.
You've seen which have been lost. We have the speaker as well, who's a member, the speaker from EFF. And remember, the role of the speaker, Cathy, is also that they have to hold the executive to account. They have to make sure that they have petitions process where they listen to members of the public, they speedily resolve those issues, or make sure.
So, Advocate Mkhwebane, so basically, what you're ascribing as the success of the EFF is these MMCs who are in those portfolios who are doing their jobs. So it's part of their mandate. It's part of what they're supposed to be doing.
Thank you. Yes, that's definitely that. Because we cannot have people appoint and they don't do their responsibilities, and they have to make sure that in the process they implement the EFF policies.
Yeah, sure, but we can't really praise for fish for swimming now, can we? I suppose the broader issue around
because in South Africa, unfortunately, we have very bad service delivery. And I mean, if you go around all other municipalities, Tshwane is a disaster. So if you then can see that if we can also be in power in Tshwane, we can do wonders for the community of Tshwane, communities of Buffalo City, and all other municipalities.
Let's talk about your approach to coalition governments. Much of what we see around how you enter into coalition agreements is that, there often is not really a clear commitment that informs your coalition framework. What is the thinking of the party when you go into coalitions? And I guess we can use the local government because that's where it has existed, to give us ideas of what could possibly happen at a national level.
Coalition governments, it's indeed a challenge which the country is facing, but unfortunately that's the future, and which is the best future. The president of the EFF, CIC Malema, has spoken about that a number of times, that if there's no framework, and indeed it's not a question that we enter into some agreement like the moonshot, where the DA has drafted the moonshot, and they are then compelling those parties they are in working with to toe the line. In this instance,
I don't think that's fair. I don't think that's fair. The parties that have been part of the Moonshot Pact, some of which we've interviewed on this show, have said that they've been equal contributors to that pact. So it's not fair to say that they're being told to toe the line if the parties themselves are saying that's not the case.
All right. Let's leave those parties aside. The issue of the parties, or when we have the current setup in various municipalities, coalition government, Cathy, will make sure that we have 360-degree monitoring and holding those who are in power to account. I mean, it doesn't mean that when you are the ANC, for instance, or the DA in Tshwane, you have the power, but that power is dependent on other parties. If you are not delivering the services, or if you are not delivering to the benefit of the public, then you can be removed at any time. You wouldn't have a situation where people are just sitting on their laurels, they are not delivering any services. And if you have coalition government as well, other parties will then submit motions for those motions to be adopted by council, those motions which are also policies of those parties, like the EFF, various motions which we've submitted to the city of Ekurhuleni, and they were adopted in KwaNongoma. The Andristatane cleaning campaign was adopted. So that's what the coalition governments do, because on the positive side, it benefits the public. You don't have a situation where people are always complaining that we voted for the ANC or we voted for the DA, but there's no service delivery, there's nothing which is happening. So if you are failing to deliver service, the other parties then would have to vote you, or would have then to decide to remove you from running that particular municipality or that department. And then we have another fresh idea, fresh blood, who'd run that particular department.
I want to come to the issue of motions of no confidence in a moment, because of course there has been research that has found that actually more often than not, motions of no confidence in councils, particularly where they're coalition governments, are used quite frivolously, and it's not always an indication of the fact that the person who's the incumbent, who's being moved out of their position, is not necessarily delivering on their duty or responsibility. But I just want to understand, what, from a party perspective, is the framework that informs the EFF's decision-making when it comes to entering into coalitions?
The CIC has spoken about that, Cathy. I think let's not dwell much into it.
No,
He has indicated we don't
yeah.
enter into any agreements. It's a working relationship. If you work with us, you implement the policies which empower and benefit the public, definitely we will work with you. But then if you are not doing that, then we move to the next person, we work with that person. The main aim is to make sure that we change the lives of the South Africans. Those people's lives are at the center of our policy.
Sure,
So that's the key issue.
but what does that mean? So practically, right? If voters of the EFF would want to have some kind of idea of how would the EFF approach the probability of coalitions needing to be formed at a national level, what then? Because we know that we have entered it into what is largely uncharted territory, potentially, if the projections that have put the ANC below 50% are anything to go by. It would be uncharted territory. But there is a level of certainty that political parties can bring into it. When you tell the electorate, this is what you can expect from us. So, yes, that you will work with parties that are open and willing to work with you. But what would be underpinning that decision making? Is it values? And if it's values, what are those values? Is it about positions? Because as you've said, your CIC recently posted on X that, your party would be willing to enter into a coalition with the ANC if Floyd Shivambu was made the Minister of Finance. So is then the framework for the party around positions, the trading around who gets to sit where?
Definitely no. Definitely no. As the EFF, and we've repeated, and the CIC repeated several times, our driving focus will be the values and the 7 cardinal pillars of the organization. Those 7 cardinal pillars, we are very much grounded on them. Because if you are a party currently after the elections, after 29 May 2024, you don't want to hear anything about expropriation of land without compensation, the nationalization of strategic assets like your mining, the banks, and all those, and the issue of free, quality, decolonized education, free healthcare, and the issues relating to the in governance, free from corruption, and the issue of building state capacity. Therefore, we cannot negotiate, and we can't work with that kind of a party. If you allow us to implement our policies, then definitely we can talk with any other party, we can work with any other party. That's what the position of the EFF is not about positions. And I think that was also taken out of context because the CIC was explaining to JJ what the party is intending to do. We are not planning for failure, Cathy. We are planning to be a party which will be in government, and the CIC will be the president of the country. And, those questions are coming forth, responding to them, giving examples, doesn't mean the party is just concerned about positions. Definitely no.
So one of the conversations that has been taking place, Advocate Mohlahlana, is really around how to bring stability and maturity when it comes to coalition governments and how they've been functioning, because you have a lot of residents that really are left disadvantaged by the high levels of instability. The EFF has, came out of the local government elections as a kingmaker in really important metros. And so the fact that there is more, perhaps, than part of what you have said, that I'm really looking for in terms of understanding where the thinking of the party around coalitions is. But we'll continue the conversation in a moment. We're talking to Advocate Busisiwe Mkhwebane. She's an MP for the Economic Freedom Fighters. It's 10:30, time for the latest news headlines.
Good morning, I'm Anne Musa. In the headlines, a group of disgruntled social grant recipients plan to march to the Limpopo Premier Stanley Matabata's office today. This as the Limpopo PayPoint organization is demanding SASSA and Postbank rescind its decision to close all physical cash points in the province. The Zulu Nation Traditional Prime Minister Reverend Thulasizwe Buthelezi says the termination of the contract of King Misuzulu Kazwelithini's praise singer is a reprisal because he refused to be bullied by some ANC KwaZulu-Natal leadership. And the Southern African Agri Initiative says South Africa will soon recover from the shortage of tomatoes that has been noticed in recent weeks. I'll have details on these and other stories at 11.
Taking a look at your markets this morning, the rand is currently trading at 19 rand 14 to the dollar, 23 rand 79 to the pound, and 20 rand 45 to the euro. Markets in Asia ended in positive terrain, the JC mainly higher in mid-morning trade. Markets in Europe are slightly firm at this hour. Gold is trading at $2,319, platinum $916 per ounce. The price of Brent crude oil is at $89.36 a barrel.
The Northwest Legislature's Portfolio Committee on Economic Development, Environment, Tourism, Agriculture and Rural Development will embark on public hearings throughout the province on the Plant Health Phytosanitary Bill B14B21 on 25 April 2024 at Ngakamudiri Mulema District in Motswedi Community Hall in Motswedi, at Dr. Kenneth Kaunda District in Agricultural College in Potchefstroom, at Dr. Ruth Somotsi Mompati in Tosca Community Hall in Tosca, at Bojanala District in Safer Scale Community Hall in Safer Scale. All hearings start at 10.
For over 40 years, people around the world have been spinning and winning thanks to the Wheel of Fortune. Now it's your turn to take the prize as this legendary game show finally launches in South Africa weekdays 7:30 p.m. on S3, plus an omnibus Saturdays at 10:30 a.m. with rebroadcast on SABC2 9:30 a.m. Don't miss your chance to be part of history. Enter now on www.wheeloffortunesa.tv and let the wheel decide your fate. Channel your inner wordsmith on Wheel of Fortune on S3. Open up.
Keeping up with your TV license balance inquiries is now simpler than ever. No more waiting in queues, no more phone calls. Just SMS your ID or TV license account number to 44210 and secure your legal viewing fast and simple. Standard SMS rates will be charged. Terms and conditions apply. TV licenses. Pay yours. Make a difference.
Get your payments done with the utmost security and convenience when you purchase a TV license now. With our new secure payment systems with a one-time PIN OTP feature and the choice of receiving your OTP via SMS or email, you can ensure prompt and secure payments. The additional use of capture will protect you against spam and automated data attractions. With TV licenses, you can enjoy watching all your favorite shows or movies that matter to you. Get yours today. Visit www.tvlic.co.za.
Rewind the years and relive all the action on the A-Team. John Hannibal Smith leads the team of 4 members of a former commando outfit. His plans may be unorthodox, but they're effective. Lieutenant Templeton Pegg, second in command, a smooth-talking conman, and the appropriator of vehicles and other useful items. The team pilot, Captain Howling Mad Murdoch. Howling Mad, his name says it all. Sergeant First Class Mr. T, the team's strongman and mechanic. Join them as they embark on epic adventures and missions, all in attempts to clear their names, weekdays at 12. Channel your inner A game with the A Team, only on S3.
The Talking Point with Cathy Mohlahlana. Weekdays, 9 a.m. till midday.
We continue the conversation on the Talking Point Citizens Corner. We're joined by the EFF's advocate Busiswe Mkhwebane. She's an MP for the Economic Freedom Fighters. So, Advocate Mkhwebane, perhaps just to wrap up then this conversation around coalition governments, can we expect that the same pattern and trends that the EFF has followed in pursuing coalition governments or agreements at a local level, that is what you will do at a national level?
Let me clarify this again. There's no agreement which the EFF enters into. The EFF is not after positions of being kingmakers and all those. We are striving to receive majority to be in government and lead. But then in cases where we have to work with other parties, that's what will happen, because we cannot just sit with the party, Cathy, which is mediocre, which is not delivering services, which is not performing. Our focus is the community and its own service delivery, purely that.
Yeah,
So
of course, part of the
any
slant.
party which will not be delivering the services to the poor and the marginalized, and I think that's at the core. I was listening to the recordings earlier, and people are concerned about service delivery. So that's our focus, Cathy, and that's what we are doing. And I mean, I've given you examples of what we've done.
But part of what we've also seen, where there's a toss up. Yes, you might say that you don't want to be the kingmaker. The reality is that it's the position that you have found yourself in, and given the options of the DA and the ANC, more and more the EFF seems to be slanting towards situations that give governance to the ANC.
You know, Cathy, it's because I indicated earlier that any party we are working with, if you implement our policies, definitely we will work with you. Then it means if we are working with the ANC more, it's because it's to the benefit of the public, you know, because possibly DA is not concerned about service delivery, is not willing to change the lives of the South Africans. So that's purely based on that.
So if you believe the ANC is willing to
make
change,
sure that governance is delivered.
So if you believe that the ANC is willing to change the lives of South Africans above what members of the opposition are at this point, why then contest against the ANC?
The ANC is the worst ever.
No, they can't be that bad if you're still giving them positions of power.
Remember, your question was, why work with the ANC? That's the current situation we find ourselves, because they are in government already and they are failing to deliver services. And where we are working with them, we tell them, we will work with you if you do the following, if you are implementing our policies.
So Advocate Mkhwebane,
we will definitely make sure that the ANC is removed, because they are continuously lying. They are being used as a weapon to continuously keep the people of South Africa to be oppressed.
I guess the point that I'm making, Advocate Mkhwebane,
us a lot, Cathy, in the past 30 years.
The point is that it's not that there are no other alternatives to the governance structures, including at a local level, right? Because if the ANC does not have the majority, it means that if the opposition all worked together, there could well be an opportunity to have mayors that are in position that are not ANC mayors, right? That opportunity is there. But the EFF is not going with that opportunity of taking the ANC out. It's opting for the opportunity of keeping the ANC in. And that's what I'm trying to understand.
It's not true, Kathy, what you are saying. And I mean, you're just making a wrong assumption. Kathy, if the ANC, like in the city of Ekurhuleni currently, the voters voted for the ANC, but they didn't allow them to have a 50+1 majority. Therefore, in situations where we can make sure that we have a mayor or we have the MMCs who are indeed working for the public, because remember the current administration in the municipalities, people of South Africa voted for them. They gave them the opportunity to govern, but they are failing to govern. And in situations where we see, I mean, like for instance, in the city of Joburg, remember when Mashaba was the mayor and the EFF had to say, we will give you the position to be the mayor SDA on condition that you insource the following workers, like your security and your cleaners. What was the intention of the EFF? And in all what we do is the people who are marginalized, is the poor, and that's what we will continue to do. If we don't have the 50+ majority, Kathy, we will work with any organization which will make sure that our policies per the manifesto, the best ever manifesto which we've issued, which is smart, which is having time frames and all the details.
All right.
Therefore, we will work with that particular part.
Advocate Mkhwebane, in which province are you hoping to have the strongest showing?
We are very much confident that Gauteng we will be the best, actually in all the provinces, Kathy.
No, Advocate Mkhwebane.
Definitely.
Look,
that's what we are working towards. Why must we work
Advocate Mkhwebane, there is realistically, there's what you hope for as a party, and then there's also what are party political trends in South Africa, right? Mm-hmm. And following then, if all things remain the same, right, and your wish doesn't come true, and the trends politically continue, then perhaps let's look at it from that framework. Yes, I know you're planning on being the best in every province, but if that doesn't happen, which provinces are you anticipating you will have a strong showing in?
Since you say that, and you mustn't come back and say, Mkhwebane says they won't be strong in other provinces. But then, according to the Ipsos, which was done, Kathy, the EFF will be having a number of, a strong presence in the following provinces. We have Gauteng. We have Mpumalanga was also one of those provinces. We have Limpopo. We have Free State, KZN. You know, not just mentioning in a number of how many do we have, but then that's how hard we are working, Kathy, and that's our plan. And our wish to have those numbers. But Gauteng, KZN, Western Cape, it's about 11%. Maybe if I can mention to you what said.
You of course would have your work cut out for you in KZN. You've got the IFP. Yes, the EFF has shown some growth if we look at some of the by-elections that have taken place since the local government elections. But, you've got the IFP that has been growing there. You've got the DA, you've got the ANC, and then you've got the newly launched Umkhonto weSizwe party. So there's tough contestation in KZN.
Yes, I agree with you there. But hence I was saying, according to the research now, because we will wait for Ipsos to issue their research, after the introduction of MK for us to see where we are standing. But before then, Gauteng, we were leading, and KZN, it was 17% before MK, and the next one was Western Cape, 11%, and Eastern Cape was 12%, and Mpumalanga, it was 10%, Limpopo, 9%. So with the introduction of the MK party, we hope that we won't be far off.
But it sounds like you are expecting.
Has indicated as well that after the elections, we will be working a lot with the parties which are on the left, the parties which are not belonging to Moonshot.
So it does sound like you are anticipating a situation where the MK party could well be eating your lunch in KZN and perhaps some of the other provinces.
Not at all. I mean, KZN, for instance, the MK will be eating a lot, hopefully, from the ANC and the IFP, because some people were no longer even voting because they felt left out, or they didn't even want to vote for the ANC and the IFP. So with the introduction of the MK, it will eat a lot from those parties, not from the EFF.
Would you enter into a coalition with the MK party?
The president, CIC Malema, has already answered that, indicated that indeed we will engage the MK party if the need arises, especially to make sure that we remove corrupt government of the ANC, the DA, which is also lying and
the EFF was the EFF was also part of the campaign to get the former president removed from parliament, removed out of office, because it said he was corrupt too. These are statements that have been made by your leader too. So when did he stop being corrupt?
Cathy, that has not yet been taken to court where he was found guilty. But at the end of the day, remember, he was indeed removed because of the evidence which the party had and the evidence which the party believed in. And remember now, he's the member of another party.
Yes, but what has changed your mind? But what has changed the party's mind?
There's a lot which changes in politics. Things change over and over. And at the end of the day,
but what has changed it? Advocate Mkhwebane, what has changed the party's position?
It's realizing that, you know what, possibly under his administration, besides the allegations which he's still facing, there is a lot of service delivery which took place, and people's lives were better off compared to the current ANC of Ramaphosa.
So at this point, you're willing to work with him in spite of that?
You know what, Cathy? Besides only that, remember, it's MK is not President Zuma. MK is a political party. Indeed, if their policies are policies which are in a way aligned to the policies of the EFF, and we will make sure that using their numbers, we are changing the lives of South Africans. Because at the center here, again, it's not about the positions and the issue of who is having what, Cathy. At the center is whether we are changing the lives of the South Africans.
Okay.
If MK's manifesto and policies is focusing on expropriation of land without compensation, free and quality decolonized education, you know, those are the parties we will work with.
Okay.
Free healthcare, which is quality, and I mean, that's what we are focusing on.
All right.
More than anything which, unfortunately, is being perpetuated by the media most of the time, because it's like people are just after positions.
Okay. Advocate Mkhwebane, I'm going to ask you to stay on the line. I'm bringing in our listeners into this conversation. I'm going to ask everybody, please try and keep it as short as possible so that we give an opportunity to as many people as possible. In Soweto, Stephen, good morning.
Good morning, Advocate. Hello?
Advocate Mkhwebane, are you still on the line?
I'm here.
Yes.
Am I audible?
Yes. Can you hear our listener, Stephen?
I do.
Okay, wonderful.
Yes, Advocate. One question under your profession as an advocate, right? Section 88 of the Constitution of South Africa says a president cannot actually serve more than 2 terms. Number 2, the recommended CIC, though I don't know what does that mean. CIC's vice president, that is Fred Shivambu. Does he still have student accommodation? And if he still have that, remember in the past what he did, he actually evicted the students that couldn't pay, and it wasn't actually the student, but the NSFAS. Thanks for the opportunity, Cathy, and the advocate.
Okay, Stephen. Pule, you're in Matlosana. Good morning.
And how are you, Advocate?
I'm good. Yourself?
Good. Look, I think there's an answer that you try to be political on it when Cathy asked you a question. What has changed from Jacob Zuma? He was called a constitutional delinquency by your president, and your president said he must go and rot in jail. The EFF brought a motion of no confidence. EFF said he's a corrupt leader to the core. The EFF in Parliament disrupted his sauna several times. They couldn't even allow him to speak, and they were chased out. And they said the only person who must leave Parliament is Jacob Zuma. It was all there in the media. We had the public protector by then. So Zuma now he's with another party. Now he has prepared, not literally, but you are prepared to go to bed with him. 2 is DA that give CFF that give DA power in Tshwane and other metros, calling DA a racist at times, but they said that they're the better devils. And when you look at the policies of the ANC,
okay, please wrap it up for me, Pule.
Let me wrap up. EFF, their negotiations are saying this or nothing, and you don't negotiate in that way. It's all about EFF, not about other parties. This or nothing. It's not going to work that way.
Okay.
You must be prepared to bargain and negotiate.
All right.
That's my submission.
Pro, you're in Parktown. Good morning.
Hello, how are you, Cathy?
Good, thank you. Go for it.
Yeah, Advocate, how are you? Cathy.
Happy.
Okay, Cathy. I want to ask Advocate one question. I'm the really member of the Economic Freedom Fighters. I understand that in our intention, we don't want to work with the ANC. We run away from the ANC because we hate them. They are corrupt. We want to remove them. To answer, to support the advocate there with that question of the guy who said, hey, Zuma what and Zuma this. Yeah, if it's Jacob Zuma, but the more we remove him in precedent, we were working with the ANC where it matters. That doesn't matter that here you must say Zuma this, Zuma is this. I said to advocate, go there and represent us with the dignity. We want to remove the corrupt ANC government. Thank you, advocate, and Cathy Mohlahlana.
All right, Pro. Mike, you're in Newlands. Good morning.
Good morning, Advocate. 2 questions. First of all, about 7 years ago, Malema promised to build a private school. He said if he didn't build it in 5 years, then don't vote for us, and because we're incapable of staying in as a party. So must I still vote? Because I understand the school has not been built. And then the second thing is, we haven't got to the bottom of the Floyd Shivambu affair. The Supreme Court ruled against Floyd Shivambu and his brother Brian, and there was a direct link found that the money stolen from the VBS Bank did go to Floyd Shivambu's brother Brian, and Floyd Shivambu admitted buying a brand new, I think it was a Land Rover or something, a car. Now, we've never heard the end of that, and with corruption being the number one issue other than unemployment in our country, how are we going to put this one to bed? If you want me to vote for the EFF, we need conclusive proof that the money that was stolen, admittedly by the EFF, and they've admitted to that, is returned to the poor and the homeless that was stolen from originally.
Okay,
Thanks so
all
much,
right,
Cathy.
Mike, thanks. Mawande in the Eastern Cape, good morning.
Morning. Thanks, Cathy. Quick two questions. I know that the EFF is an organization that has accommodated people with disabilities in their list together with Action SA, only those two parties. I wanted to ask to the advocate, what percentage have they given to the people who are going to be representative to the National Assembly and provincial legislatures as people with disabilities? The first question. Then the second question, there is a judgment by the Western Cape High Court in regard to Floyd Shivambu since he was found by Ethics Committee in Parliament that he was unlawfully benefited from VBS, and then he takes that decision to the Western Cape High Court. And the Western Cape High Court agreed with Ethics Committee in Parliament to say Floyd has unlawfully benefited from VBS. What kind of an action that the EFF is going to take against Floyd Shivambu? Because now it's no longer allegations.
Okay,
Mawande. It's by court. Thank you.
Thanks for that question. Advocate Mkhwebane.
Thank you, Cathy, for the questions which people have asked. I would want to indicate that, Cathy, the way the government and the politics works, again, at the center of our intention as EFF is to make sure that the people are at the center of everything which we are doing. If we have to work with any political party and any person, we will make sure that the policies of the EFF are implemented. Those policies which I've mentioned earlier, the issue of expropriation of land without compensation, that will be done. The issue of nationalizing all strategic sectors of the economy, that will be done.
Okay.
The issue of
Advocate Mkhwebane, apologies for interjecting. Just a note to say we don't have much time left. So if you can just go directly to the answers for our listeners, please.
That's why I'm saying, Cathy, we will work with any leader and any person. As long as that leader, including MK, including the President Zuma, that will be done. And secondly, the issue of Section 88 of the Constitution, that also needs an interpretation, which, if willing, the National Assembly, if they don't want, let's say the MK party wins, and the current president wants to be the president because there's somebody who said Section 88 provides for the president not serving more than 2 terms as the president of the country, which I was still going to that particular section. But then at the end of the day, that's for the court to interpret that, and that's for them to indicate whether is it the same party or if the person is coming back as a president of another party. That one I wouldn't comment more on. And the issue of Shivambu having been, Shivambu having been found or removing student and all those, I don't know where does that come in, because the Deputy President Shivambu was never in government, was never in NSFAS. The only thing we as EFF is our intervention, meeting with with the Minister Blade Nzimande, being concerned about the start of the school season and the issue of NSFAS, and them continuing to use those companies which were appointed unlawfully, and that they must pay the monies on time. So I don't know which court said Shivambu acted unlawfully as far as the issue of NSFAS is concerned. So on the issue of the private school, the President, CIC Malema, spoke about that indeed the site has been procured. They are at the stages of finalizing all the necessary issues. And I think the mention of that issue of building of a private school was dependent on the resources, and it's private resources. If the organization cannot procure enough resources, surely the process will take time to do. You speak as if the president promised that, in our manifesto, and now we are in government. We are having enough resources as government to be providing those services. So I think he answered it not long ago and indicated that that is the situation. The issue of Brian Shivambu and the brother, it was a key issue which was taken to court, as it has been mentioned now. And when it was deliberated in Parliament, we didn't agree with the way the ethics committee was dealing with the matter, because if it was a loan from a family member, which is not mentioned in the relevant legislation dealing with the declarations, now if the Western Cape High Court has agreed with the outcome, which the current Deputy President still have an opportunity to appeal that. And I must indicate that within the organization, EFF, we do have a policy dealing with how, as members of EFF, need to conduct themselves. That is within the organizational process, which will be dealt with. And remember, if
Advocate Mkhwebane, we are completely out of time. I've got to go to the latest news headlines. Thank you so much for coming on to our Citizens Corner for this morning. It's just after 11 o'clock.
In our top stories, Northern Cape Police probe fatal shooting incident and traditional Prime Minister of the Zulu Nation response to Mdletshe saga. Good morning. Northern Cape Police are investigating cases of murder, attempted murder and an inquest after a Kimberley police officer allegedly shot his girlfriend and a brother before turning the gun on himself. The injured man is recovering in hospital. Police spokesperson Sergio Cox says the motive of the shootings remains unclear.
A police official, aged 36, and his girlfriend, aged 35, died on the scene. 37-year-old man is being treated for his injuries in hospital. The exact cause of the motive behind the incident is under investigation. The Provincial Commissioner of the Northern Cape, Lieutenant General Kaliso Otola, expresses sincere condolences to the families of the deceased.
The remains of all 45 Botswana nationals who died in a bus crash at Mamatlakala Bridge outside Mokopane in Limpopo over the long Easter weekend have been identified. Limpopo Health spokesperson Tilibali Moaba says there were 46 passengers, including one survivor of the accident. The bus plunged into a ravine and caught fire. Moaba says they will meet with a delegation of Botswana officials tomorrow to finalize the death registrations with Home Affairs.
A multidisciplinary team tasked with coordinating the recovery and identification of remains confirmed a positive identification of 45 human remains through DNA processes. We can now confirm that there were 46 passengers with one survivor based on this scientific process and result. The team has already finalized packaging the deceased remains as part of preparations towards repatriation, and the bodies are now ready. There will be a meeting with delegation from Botswana to finalize death registration with Home Affairs, and the plans of repatriation will be outlined.
A group of disgruntled social grant recipients plan to march to the Limpopo Premier Stanley Matabata's office today. This as the Limpopo PayPoint organisation is demanding SASSA and Postbank rescind its decision to close all physical cash points in the province. Chairperson of the Limpopo PayPoint organisation, Noko Mutibane, says they want the Premier to forward their memorandum of demands to the President.
The demand in our memorandum is we ask the Social Development Minister to call a stakeholders meeting so that they can resolve the decision they made about the closure of the fiscal pay point. Because this affects old ladies and the self-employed workers who used to sell at the pay point. But now, since they have closed the pay point, old people are suffering.
The traditional Prime Minister of the Zulu Nation, Reverend Thulasizwe Buthelezi, says the termination of the contract of King Misizulu Zwelithini's praise singer Phuzisheni Mdletshe is a reprisal because he refused to be bullied by some ANC KwaZulu-Natal leadership. The King issued a statement raising his discontent with the ANC-led provincial government, accusing them of disrespecting the Zulu monarch. But the provincial government says Mdletshe's extended two-year contract expired in 2022 following his retirement in 2020. Buthelezi elaborates.
Mr. Mdletshe refused to be bullied by MEC Duma at the Gwaqeza incident when Duma bullied Mdletshe to introduce the king, and Mr. Mdletshe said, no, that is the role of the Prime Minister. Because if you see the contract itself, it expires in January 2025. But conveniently, on the 18th of April, he is given 10 days notice that his contract is expired. So this is in fact a reprisal to cut Mdletshe down to size for refusing to be bullied by the KZN government.
And finally, the Southern African Agri-Initiative says South Africa will soon recover from the shortage of tomatoes that has been noticed in recent weeks. The heatwave experienced in the Limpopo province in February this year destroyed a large portion of produce that has affected supply to the entire country. As a result, there has been a 50% drop in the supply of tomatoes, leading to increased prices. The Southern African Agri-Initiative chairman, Dr. Theo De Jager.
The current shortage of tomatoes all across South Africa is because of the drought accompanied by this massive heat wave, which we've had in the 7th, the 8th and the 9th weeks of this year. So that was towards the end of February and the first week of March. Because of that, the production is much lower at the moment, but it's only temporary. By the end of next week, prices should be back to normal.
Recapping the top story, Northern Cape Police are investigating cases of murder, attempted murder and an inquest after a Kimberley police officer allegedly shot his girlfriend and a brother before turning the gun on himself. For SAFM News, I am Anne Musa.
SAFM 104 to 107 nationwide, leading the conversation.
Attention to all music lovers. The highly anticipated Metro FM Music Awards are finally here.
Y'all ready?
Purchase your tickets to gain access to the awards ceremony and the live concert happening on the 27th of April 2024 at Mbombela Stadium, Mpumalanga.
Yo, we about to have some fun in here.
You can now secure your tickets from 300 Rand at www.computicket.co.za.
Yeah, man, this is a big night.
With a star-studded lineup of DJs and live performances, don't miss your chance to be part of this unforgettable celebration of talent and music excellence.
Come on, Mbombela, come through. Let's do this.
Hashtag MMA24, Black to the Future. Metro FM, it's where you want to be.
The Northwest Legislature's Portfolio Committee on Economic Development, Environment, Tourism, Agriculture and Rural Development will embark on public hearings throughout the province on the Electricity Regulation Bill B23B23 on 24 April 2024 at Ngakamudiri Mulema District in Madibuho Community Hall in Madibuho, at Dr. Kenneth Kaunda District in Matlosane Auditorium Hall, at Dr. Ruth Somuti Mompati in Utlwanang Community Hall in Christiana, at Bojanala District in Letabile Community Hall in Letabile. All hearings start at 10.
So, Umpo was busy on my manifestation. I told him, before manifesting, make money first. When you use your Nedbank Amex card, you earn up to 2% unlimited cashback and 25 cents back per litre of fuel at BP with Greenbacks any day.
And even more on Fridays because
Thank Greenbacks is Friday.
Sure thing. Get rewarded with Greenbacks. Join Nedbank today. See money differently. Nedbank. We're an authorized FSP and registered credit provider. T's and C's apply.
The Talking Point with Cathy Mohlahlana. Weekdays, 9 a.m. till midday.
Good morning, Sis Katie, and good morning to the advocate, Mkhwebane. Sis Katie, I once was a member of the EFF, but I decided not to renew the membership because of their foreign policy. But don't get me wrong, EFF they got a very good policies. There's 7 cardinal pillars, spot on. But some of the things, maybe if they can sit down with the CIC and try to convince him, because sometimes there's a dictatorship, Yeah. So I've got one question for the advocate. What are they going to do if they come to power? About those companies who are employing the undocumented foreign nationals. Thank you. This is Bongan from World Peter's.
Morning, Cathy. This is Zanele in Durban. eThekwini, they have betrayed the voters who voted them in those positions, and they've chose to sleep in one bed with the enemy. As a result, if you do approach them with your dissatisfaction when it comes to service delivery, they just ignore you. In fact, they has abandoned the voters who voted for them. Thank you.
Cathy, hearers of the station, how can you talk about eThekwini that you are doing good as an example of how you're ruling? Because the eThekwini, if you trade off it with the days of Mr. Liptis, the apartheid mayor, the eThekwini is dirty, is something you cannot be proud of. How can you say you can rule the country in a prosperous way? You do not controlling border gates and checkpoints. Can't be.
SFM Talking Point.
All right, we continue the conversation on the talking point. Lots of your responses to that conversation with the EFF MP, Advocate Busisiwe Mkhwebane, on the party and some of the planning and the thinking going into the May 29 election. Unfortunately, we won't be able to take any more than what we have so that we can get into the final conversation of the day, which is looking at the Giyani water crisis. Of course, yesterday we kicked off the show just with reflecting on what residents in Giyani are saying about the fact that they still do not have access to water. And then I subsequently played an extract of my interview with Minister Senzo Mchunu in December last year, where he made a commitment that the water reticulation system would be switched on before the year was up. Well, the minister is on the line. He wants a right of reply. Minister Senzo Mchunu, good morning to you. Thanks for your time this morning.
Good morning to you and good morning to the SFM listeners.
Well, one of the things that I said yesterday, Minister, was whether we're dealing with a case of promises. You made a commitment that the water reticulation system for the outstanding Giyani villages that were yet to be onboarded would take place in December, and it's April 2024 now, and we still have communities talking about the fact that they don't have water.
Yeah, Giyani is quite a large area, and I think that's one of the points we need to understand. And number two, that the scheme as a whole shouldn't be taken as one wholesome thing, because at the time when it started, the conception was Giyani bulk from Nandoni up to Ntsami, and then that water would supply the CBD, and there would be rudimentary schemes to communities. Now, that first project has been completed on the 5th of March last year, as we said. Now, we are on a reticulation, but we have to first complete the refurbishment of the treatment plant. Up to 30 megaliters per day. At the moment, we've moved from 15 to 21 and a half. And we are going to complete this on the 15th next month. because there were some delays with the contractor hitting snags here and there, but those have been overcome and they are due to complete that. It is only then that you are able to have enough production that meets the demand, but then you also have to start building bulk lines to each of the villages. And most of the bulk lines are 60, 62, 65, 56% to completion. And then there's the last mile, which is reticulation. And most of reticulation, in some cases, it has been completed, but others, they are still doing that. But there is no water, even on taps that are already in households, and there are many that are there in a number of villages that I went to. Now, but those will have to wait until the bulk lines are completed and water is flowing into them. And quite a number are going to be completed in June this year, at the end of June, and others in September. And this is still just the 24 villages out of the 55. And there will be phase 2 that will start thereafter, and then we'll focus on them. But I just want to say that there is no area in South Africa, no village in South Africa or community that is receiving as much attention as Guyana. There's 1.3 billion for reticulation alone for phase 1, and another 1.3 billion for reticulation phase 2. And we are on phase 1, we're dealing with that. And there are 37 contractors all over Guyana in the 24 villages. And they are working dust and mud. You hardly drive a kilometer or two without seeing either trenches and so on. It comes down to actual practical hard work than what we would have wanted to see in terms of time frames. But we are almost satisfied. Minus hitches that would have taken place and delayed, but
so Minister,
we are satisfied that work is progressing.
Yeah, I want to give you credit to say that at the time that we spoke last year, you would have been well aware of just what still needed to be done, right?
Yes, but not hitches and delays.
Okay, so what has caused the glitches and delays? Because in December when we spoke, you specifically were talking to the aspect of the reticulation and switching that on, and you were confident that that would have happened by December. Now, listening to you speak now, it sounds like the delays that you're facing. Because remember, we weren't even talking about just the initial 24 villages. We were talking about the entire scope of all 50 plus villages. And you had said that you are quite confident that actually, as far as reticulation for the 24 is concerned, that would definitely be on board by December. So now, if I'm listening to you carefully, it seems that you are way out in terms of the timeline that we had discussed. So what have been these delays?
First, I have to say, as I've indicated at the beginning, that not the whole of Guyana is not receiving water. The CPD is receiving water from the scheme that is from the very same plant that we are refurbishing. 2, there's a village called Mohlahlana that is receiving water directly from the plant. And then there's a third one, I forget its name, that they keep on mentioning to me, that is also receiving water. So those people are receiving water, and they even said to ourselves, Mohlahlana, water is no longer a priority for them. The priority is a tarred road And that's why they blocked us from getting in. Because they are no longer worried about that. So there are people who are getting water who have now been reticulated.
Yeah, but it's marginal. It's marginal compared to the people that
but
actually
it is
need to be brought on board.
But it is progress. Remember, all the rest of the people are getting water from boreholes. In one village, there are 7 boreholes, in another 4 boreholes, in another 2 boreholes, in another 5 boreholes. So there is provision to transition between no supply of water to piped supply of water. There are these schemes via boreholes, and each of the boreholes has 4 or 5 taps. The only problem with that is that people have to walk to them, and some of the communities are far from some of the boreholes because they are not all over. They are where they are.
Which is precisely part of the point, Minister, is that if it's part of the point of why, the residents of Giani want this water problem resolved, because the boreholes in and of themselves are simply not sufficient.
Yes.
So when we come back, I'm going to take a quick break, but when we come back, I want you to just explain to us, right, what the delays that you have experienced are, so that we can understand, because otherwise it becomes a case of just yet more commitments that are never met, timelines that are made or that are announced to almost pacify residents, knowing full well that those timelines are not going to be met, but it's used as a means to keep people quiet, so that the disquiet, the protests that we've seen coming out of that part of the country are somehow stalled. We'll continue the conversation with the Water and Sanitation Minister, Senzo Mchunu.
The Northwest Legislature's Portfolio Committee on Economic Development, Environment, Tourism, Agriculture and Rural Development will embark on public hearings throughout the province on the Plant Health Phytosanitary Bill B14B21 on 25 April 2024 at Ngakamudiri Mulema District in Motswedi Community Hall in Motswedi, at Dr. Kenneth Kaunda District in Agricultural College in Potchefstroom, at Dr. Ruth Somotsi Mompati in Tosca Community Hall in Tosca, at Bojanala District in Safer Scale Community Hall in Safer Scale. All hearings start at 10.
Nalibitso la ka ke bonolo mo aghi di bantswang ba re ke Miss B morara Miss T mo ahludi the Bonnie B Bonbon, and we'll be now playing Kena on Mondays at 4:30. The day has changed but the time slot hasn't. So if you're interested in news that's happening with us kids and our peers around the world, don't forget to tune in. See you there.
Character will be tested between the great giants of the beautiful game. RB Leipzig and Borussia Dortmund understand that the first prize is unreachable. However, they want to finish as high as possible. This is the Bundesliga. Football as it's meant to be. Catch RB Leipzig versus Borussia Dortmund on Saturday, 27 April at 3 p.m. Live on SABC3. Also available on SABC Plus and SABCSport.com. # We Love It Here. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport.
For the love of the game.
Cathy Mohlahlana on SAFM.
We continue the conversation on the talking point. Senzo Mchunu is the Minister of the Department of Water and Sanitation. He's responding to the situation in as far as it relates to the delay of provision of water more broadly in the Giani area and the affected 55 villages. So, Minister, the reasons for the delays, the reasons why you have not been able to meet your commitment.
Let me start with Kaula, for instance, as an example. The project of reticulation there started on the 13th of April 2023 and is set to be completed on the 30th of April 2024. And they are unlikely to exactly finish on the 30th of April. And another one, Ngove, they started on the 12th of September 2023. and they are set to complete everything on the 30th of September 2023. I'm not going to bother you about the length of pipes and all of that. Now, on Monday, when we arrived on Sunday, and then the first thing we went to look at the upgrade, the refurbishment of the treatment plant. People were not working. There was a strike because the subcontractors, they allegedly had not been paid by the main contractor, and then there was no work. It's such delays that causes problems and causes problems. That's number one. It doesn't happen once. And this is an area of management by Mopane district. We only hear thereafter that there is a problem. And unfortunately this time, we were going there, we spoke to the people, we facilitated invoices and all of those things, and said in future these things must be raised 10 days before pay date, talking to Mopane District, who is an implementing agent. We are dealing with that. But number two...
So contractors were not paid?
The subcontractors alleged that they had not been paid and they've been complaining. But that was resolved on Monday and they started working. I'm making an example. But the other examples are situations where they order parts because they've got to deal with some particular work in a particular area, and those parts take time to arrive. Not because of the delays from where we buy, but because of procurement processes. Procurement requires you to compare, to do this and that, and sometimes in municipalities like Mopane, not all the skills are there. Sometimes they delayed, they take time. We have, for instance, said we have now given directives to Lepelle to come and reinforce Mopane municipality just to ensure that we facilitate completion of projects.
But Lepelle Northern Water was part of the parties that were said to be problematic. Even in the...
some time ago.
Yes. So when you bring them back, explain the thinking behind that, simply because of the history of this project in particular.
Okay, when I came to the department on the 5th of August 2021, a new board had just been appointed. And all I needed to do was to check the profiles of these people and satisfy myself that everything was transparent and the processes, and they themselves have integrity and so on. And so I accepted them. So firstly, that board that plunged us and the whole country into problems are gone. It's a new board. Number two, the senior officials, your CE, your CFO, some have been arrested, some charged, others are undergoing various cases. And all in all, SIU is seeking 2 billion rand from them in various individual cases and some as collective. So we are dealing with a new scenario where all key people who played a role at that time are gone.
Have the companies that were involved in the corruption in the historic phase of this project and the individuals associated with them, the companies and the individuals, have they been blacklisted from getting contracts right now?
We are not even talking about blacklisting at the moment. We are just following and supporting SIU. And but there's no relationship whatsoever between the Department of Water and Sanitation, and between Lepelle, Northern Water, and any one of those companies that were involved at that particular time.
So all of the contractors and the individuals, so whether it's companies or individuals, none of them were part of any previous phase of this project?
If there is any one contractor who would have been involved in that era, they would have been proven, among other things, by Lepelle itself and by SIU in particular, on our behalf and on behalf of the state, that they were not involved there. And I don't think they would have gone beyond 2, if any of them. But you are dealing with a totally different scenario. And we have said, even to Mopane, when you contract the 37, they are basically local SMMEs and so on, but they stretch also up to Bamber district, which is next door district. But the main thing is that they must be profiled properly, scrutinized, and then get involved only on the basis of them being clean.
Mr. Mkunu,
and there are 37 on the ground.
We'll continue the conversation in a moment. When we continue, I've got quite a lot of listeners who want to engage with you on this issue. It's 11:30. It's time for the latest news headlines.
E-News making headlines for this hour. Northern Cape Police are investigating cases of murder, attempted murder and an inquest after a Kimberley police officer allegedly shot his girlfriend and her brother before turning the gun on himself. In other news, the remains of all 45 Botswana nationals who died in a bus crash outside Mokopane, Limpopo over the long Easter weekend, have been identified. Limpopo Health spokesperson Tilibali Mwava says there were 46 passengers, including one survivor of the incident. And lastly, new studies show that nearly half of South African adults are reportedly borrowing money to afford groceries. According to the FinScope Consumer South Africa 2023 survey, 40% of consumers are using credit for household necessities. I'll be back at 12 for SFM News. Good morning. I'm Eva Chipa.
I want to talk to this girl, but I'm shy, bro. Come on, go talk to her, bro. It's a masquerade party. Plus, you know the ladies love a man with a bit of mystery. Don't worry, we got you. Hey, girl.
I just want to know who's behind that mess. From the moment I saw you, you stole my heart. Can I please get your number, babe? And I'll take you out. I promise to love you forever when this I vow.
I'll show you my face if you show me yours.
Let's face it, when you channel your inner superstar, every moment turns into a musical. Catch The Masked Singer SA, Saturdays at 6:30 p.m. and see who's hiding behind the mask. Channel A Better You with S3. S3, open up.
The highly anticipated Metro FM Music Awards are finally here, and the live concert happening with a star-studded lineup of DJs and live performances.
Make some beautiful noise!
On the lineup, Oscar Mbo, Oskido, Dala Tuxin, Makadzi, Lamise Hallworthy, Mtunzi, Luandrungulu, Umshaka, Amos, Naked DJ, and a special live performance by the internationally acclaimed Hoabili.
You can now secure your tickets from 300 Rand at computicket.co.za. Don't miss your chance to be part of this unforgettable celebration. 27th April at Mbombela Stadium, Mpumalanga. #MMA24. Black to the future. Metro FM. It's where you want to be.
The Northwest Legislature's Portfolio Committee on Economic Development, Environment, Tourism, Agriculture and Rural Development will embark on public hearings throughout the province on the Electricity Regulation Bill B23B23 on 24 April 2024 at Ngaka Mudiri Molayama District in Madibuho Community Hall in Madibuho, at Dr. Kenneth Kaunda District in Matlosane Auditorium Hall, at Dr. Ruth Somuti Mompati in Utlwanang Community Hall in Christiana, at Bojanala District in Letabile Community Hall in Letabile. All hearings start at 10.
The Talking Point with Cathy Mohlahlana. Weekdays, 9 a.m. till midday.
All right, we continue the conversation with the Water and Sanitation Minister, Senzo Mkunu. Austin Mabasa, good morning. I understand you're a resident from Giani.
Good morning, and how are you?
I'm well, thank you, Austin. Go for it.
Yes, no, thanks very much. Well, listening to the minister, what he's presenting in terms of the total project of the Guyana bulk water and also the reticulations. Yes, based on our observation on the ground as residents, we would like to disagree with the report that has been mentioned of saying that there is progress in terms of the reticulation that is being brought to the community of Guyana at large. Remember, Casey, if I can take you back, the very same minister, Mr. Senzo Mtuno, he once came down in Guyana indicating that by the month end September 2023, there will be water in Guyana. We were engaging him in one of the community halls in the CBD. And he also confirmed to say that indeed the deadline is going to be met. He will make sure that all the officials, including the Lepelle and water and DWS, together with them, they will make sure that this project come to completion. But hence what we realized that when it comes to the deadline of that September, we did not see the completion of the project. And what we're told that there were some technical issues that made them not to complete. They mentioned one of the chief that indicated that they don't want the project to give the people of Guyana water. Hence, there was those delays. Then we end up taking it to the street. After the engagement, the minister engaged with us, and then later they came with the president on December 2023. The president also gave us another date to say March 2024 there will be water. It will have been completed because they've also resolved that issue with the chiefs that side of the district. So now there's no longer problem. Water will be in Guyana by March, come March 2024. Hence now we are on April. And our surprise again, the visit of the minister again to say, we just listened to him recently, he was pronouncing another date to say the completion of this project, especially in the plant, is going to be completed on May the 14th or the 15th. So it's another new date. Every time when it comes, there must be a new date that it's been given.
And Austin, how does all of this make you feel?
Actually, it makes us to lose hope against the government of today because, you see, now we tend to realize that every visit that has been made to Guyana is no longer to give us water, but it seems that maybe there's something that the visit is all about, not actually to give us water because, as we are saying, when the president came here in December, if indeed they were serious of giving us water, he should have made sure that the pronouncement of number one in the Republic must not just come to Guyana and then it went by.
All right.
So now, if he comes back after the number one who have came and indicated that March there will be water, then he comes back again, the minister who have given us the date of September, now is giving another date. So you will end up not being sure who to believe now because always everyone who's coming is giving us date, but there is that real product that we are looking for, which is water.
Okay,
all the
Austin.
55 villages that are meant to be given water here.
Let's leave it there, Austin.
Yeah,
let's leave it there. Give others a chance. Thanks for the call. July, you're in Malamulele. Good morning.
Good morning, my sister, and morning to the minister. My sister, I've got a house in Guyana. I'm from Malamulele, but most of the time I'm in Guyana because I've got a house in Guyana Section E. We met with Minister, as the previous caller indicated, in Guyana. He told us about the issues of two vendor chiefs. Then we suggested what needs to be done. But, today I'm phoning not to ask the minister a question, but to tell him that if he was not older than me, I could say he's a liar, including his president, Cyril Ramaphosa. We are no longer happy in Guyana because we have been patient for 10 years. After this, it means we are stupid if we will allow them to come and lie again. That's why they chased him away with Baskop Makamo. They didn't allow him this week to proceed to Kakala. We are tired. I'm calling to tell them that on the 29th of May, we are starting a new term. So they must allow MK to come and assist us. They failed. We have sufficient evidence to prove that they failed.
Okay.
It's what I'm calling to tell them to do.
All right. Julan Malamulele, thanks for the call. Mzwandile in the Eastern Cape, good morning.
Yes, thanks, Cathy. Listen, I've got 3 points that I want to make, but the
Please
first
make
one,
them very briefly for me, Mzwandile.
you actually need to hear them because I want the minister to understand why he's failing. We are investing about 2.5 billion rand of private funds in the water sector. And I want to share the frustrations that we have with the minister and his department. And the first one, Cathy, the issue of Guyana has been overplayed. The challenges of water supply are not limited to Guyana. In actual fact, me being from the Eastern Cape, I can name you countless villages and communities that have this challenge. The first point I want to raise with the minister is the following. The minister came here in the Eastern Cape on March 2022, and he introduced a concept which was very well received and adopted. That is being triple P's, private-public partnerships, where he said, we now are inviting the private investors, the private sector, to co-invest with us in matter of infrastructure enablement so that services in the department can be more efficient in delivering the service. From then, the minister has never come back to complete that. Secondly, we are investing, as I said, about 2.5 billion. One of the investments which we are making, we have linked the agricultural investments for export with some of the communities, especially in the Fish River Belt, which includes Grahamstown, by the way. If you know, Grahamstown was a huge challenge of water. Those communities do not have water. The private investment which we are making in agriculture would also come with water, fresh water supply to some of those villages there. Do you know what is our main frustration at the moment? It is because the administration of the minister does not stand behind him as far as the issuing of licenses are concerned for the private investor to co-partner with him as the minister. So I'm saying in conclusion, the problem, the minister has got the heart for the people. But the systems are not there behind it. And the systems that he needs demand that he partners with the private sector, where private sector money can be deployed to assist them.
We're going to have to leave it there. I'm completely out of time. Minister, you've got about 2 minutes to respond to the residents and, of course, Mzwandile.
Okay. The two gentlemen who called me, one from Guyana, another from Malamulele, are mixing things. What we spoke about in terms of in September, I did explain why there was a delay. Two chiefs were stopping work and so on along the main pipe. And they are talking about the main pipe from Nandoni to Nsami, which was completed on the 5th of March last year. There was a small delay, but we did announce the completion. So that's a completely different matter that they are talking about. The gentleman who is talking about Guyana having no water, and no, making no progress and saying it differs. It doesn't have facts. I have facts here. Kaula, the bulk line is at 92% complete. I'm talking about the bulk. And reticulation to communities is at 70% complete. This is now a reticulation to homes, to different homes. The gentleman who's talking about the house, that he has a house there, I don't know whether it's part of phase 1 or it's part of the next phase 2 that we'll be talking about. But there is Ngove, A, B, and C. B is completed in terms of reticulation. And of course, there's no water there. But A, and for now, but A and B, A and C have not been completed and will complete that. And then because there is connection connectivity of pipes, then B will wait for A and C. And this is Ngove, and this is practical, what I'm talking about, and it's evidence. I was there. There's evidence. Ngove is bulk at 62%. Reticulation is 5.5, and we're reticulating to homes, and there are already stand pipes there. It's a question of receiving water once the plant gets beyond 21.5% to 30%, and I can go on and on. Bambeni, 62 bulk.
All right, Minister,
65 reticulation.
You're running out of time. Can you please then respond to Mzwandile's question?
Very
briefly,
should talk
please.
to us. Mzwandile and Eastern Cape can talk to us, and we'll give him further guidance in terms of where we are and how he should feature together with private sector. And I want to say, Guyana water supply is too advanced for us to be stuck and focused on the past. It's too advanced, and we just have to focus on the future, and we stand just on the verge of completing all the supply.
Yeah, I won't ask when that will be, Minister. Minister of the Department of Water and Sanitation, Senzo Mchunu. That's where we come to the end of the show for today. We're back with you again tomorrow. Up next, the book reading.
The book reading. Please note the views expressed in this book are not that of the station. Listeners' discretion is advised. SFM presents another episode of Why Men Hate Women, written by Kopano Ratili.
In relation to sex, consent refers to voluntary, verbal, explicit, and freely given agreement to have sex. That should be normative. What should go into laws, policies, and quotes? What teachers and parents ought to teach and impart? In practice, though, things can get very complicated, actually. I once read a study where one of the participants said consent is a butt lift. That's when you lift the butt and allow your sex partner to remove your underwear so that penetration can be effected. That is sort of explicit and voluntary, but no words are spoken. In real life, there are many such situations where an explicit yes is not uttered. Why is consent important? Show me a country in the world where there is perfect equality among the genders, and I will show you a place where consent is not important. The basis of consent is negotiation, and negotiation assumes equal negotiators. Only if we are sexual equals can we give consent freely. So consent is important because ours is an unjust and equal world. And the larger the inequality in a place, the more social injustice there is in a country, the more vital the need for consent is. But the opposite is often the case. The more powerful the men, the more they feel entitled, the less they think they need freely given consent. Harvey Weinstein, Bill Cosby, Jeffrey Epstein, R. Kelly. There are many whose names we know who felt they can take whatever they want, and many others whose names are not in the media. There is another version of the same theme. The more a man believes implicitly or overtly in a hierarchy of natural rights between men and women, the less likely he is to prefer unruly women, women who do not want to be ruled by men, and as such, the more he will use violence when he doesn't get consent. How nuanced is consent? That is, where is the line? Utterly vital though it is, in many situations, consent can be quite tricky. We should exclude situations where non-consent has been expressed, whether in the form of no or non-verbally. That out of the way, consider other situations. You can give consent but yet not want to have sex. Why? Because the motive is to please your partner. Or you can want to have sex but not certain acts like anal sex or someone asking to come on you. But for whatever reason, you give consent because it is easier to say yes than to say stop. Perhaps one of the most troubling moments for many of us is when we give consent even when we don't want to because we want to be liked. That, I'm afraid, is the complexity of humans and their psychological life that makes consent a difficult rule to fit all times and all situations. Humans can and do often enough give their consent even though they may not want sex. Given the context of South Africa's GBV, gender-based violence pandemic, what do you think of this consenticon concept? What are your thoughts on the Independence author calling it commodification of intimacy? First, the person who said this is the philosopher Slavoj Žižek. He's a contrarian and performer, among other things. He's interesting to read and listen to, but we should not give all he says too much attention. Of course, he has a point when he says neoliberal capitalism commodifies our intimate life. At the same time, it is also the case that the rapist can be somebody with whom you are intimate. This predicament is all too common in South Africa, one that even first-year philosophy students understand. So when a writer says, beware the commodification of intimacy, I say, beware the violence of intimacy. I do not want a sexual bouncer when I'm having fun, of course not. But until violence is exceptional, we might not need consenticons per se, but consent compacts may be necessary. Do you think that this concept of consenticons could extend beyond the nightclub scene somehow and be beneficial in everyday society? I've been thinking not about consenticons as such, but something along those lines. In a study we are undertaking on masculinities at universities, we would like to train what we call sexual violence preventionists. We are still in the thinking stage, so there is nothing to report. But the work we see these preventionists doing is to prevent sexual violence, along with other forms of university male students' violence before it happens. Training people and doing campaigns around consent is part of the work. Chapter 24, Jeannie and Emmanuel. I'm the one who killed the parents of this girl. That is Emmanuel, a character in the film Kinyarwanda, in a scene toward the end of the movie. The girl in question is Jeannie, the daughter of Emmanuel's former employer. Shot on location a decade and a half after the 1994 Rwandan genocide, Kinyarwanda was the directorial debut of African-American filmmaker Ulrich Brown. Released in 2011, the film won a clutch of awards, including the World Cinema Audience Award at the 2011 Sundance Film Festival and the World Cinema Audience Award at the 25th American Film Institute Fest. Weaving together several stories, reportedly based on true accounts of survivors, the filmmaker seeks to tell the story of this horrific and historically momentous event. One of the stories the film portrays is that of the characters Emmanuel, played by Eduardo Bamporiki, and Jeannie, played by Hadija Zaninka. The film fleetingly suggests to the audience that Emmanuel has feelings for Jeannie, who is in a relationship with another young Hutu man. In one scene, the film shows Emmanuel watching Jeannie arriving at her home with her parents, his face changing from a lustful, toothy expression to seriousness on realizing that Jeannie's boyfriend is with them. In another scene in the chapter of the film called Guns and Cockroaches, Emmanuel is shown hanging out with two other young men with machetes. One of the young men asks Emmanuel if he has a girlfriend. Emmanuel lies. He says he had one, but got rid of her because she was half cockroach, meaning part Tutsi and part Hutu. He's referring to Jeannie. With Jeannie having been brought into his mind, Emmanuel says perhaps they should go and pay her a visit one last time so that he can give her one last kiss. One of his companions asks if Emmanuel would really kiss a cockroach and adds that one does not kiss a cockroach but rapes it, a sentiment with which Emmanuel agrees. Can we interpret these scenes to indicate that a feeling that appears to be opposed to another feeling is already needed together with it, that an act of hatred is sown to a hunger for love, if not lust?